Hi guys, my name is Coach Alex, and this is part 2 of our tumble track training video. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I will put a link to it down in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. And you need to make sure you watch that one first because we're going to be talking about some of the stuff that we saw in that first video. So the first thing that we're going to discuss in these videos is how long it takes to go over rules. This is a pretty common thing to see, that rules take a significant amount of time out of your 15-minute block on the trampoline. Now this particular clip goes on for about a minute. I think it's slightly under a minute, but you can see what the parents are looking at. They see their kids sitting down, they see you sitting down, they see that something's going on, but they can't really tell that there's learning going on, they can't tell what's being said, and it just looks kind of boring. You'll also note that with most kids, they're not going to be sitting this still for this long. These are competitive athletes, so they've been pretty well trained on if you've been told to sit down, then you sit down, and if you be quiet, you be quiet. But with class kids, they're going to be rolling all over the place, running around, not really minding what you say. So you need to make sure that you're being interesting and active and not spending too much time sitting down. Now this is from the kids' point of view. And I see this quite frequently where the coach sits down in front of them. You'll see I'm speaking with a very bland tone of voice. It's not engaging, it's not exciting, it's not really something anyone's interested in listening to. So as a kid, they're not going to want to pay attention. They're going to be looking around the gym, spacing out, not listening. They're more likely to break the rules and potentially get injured because of that. Now, as we go over the circuit, the return circuit, I'm turning my back to the kids. I'm turning back and looking at them, but it's pretty vague instructions. And as you'll see in a minute, I'm going to end up standing right next to the trampoline at the beginning of the circuit. So I'm not going to be down there to teach. I'm not going to be down there to give corrections. So I really need to be more specific if I know I'm not going to be the one standing there. Now, a lot of times you'll have 2 coaches with these classes, and that's fine, but even then, both coaches really need to be down at the circuit, not standing at the front of the trampoline, unless your class really has some issues waiting in line and taking turns and stuff like that. So now we're looking parents' point of view. We're doing rules again, but this is the way it should be done. I'm up, I'm active, I'm moving around. People's attention and people's eyes are drawn to movement. So if you want people to be paying attention to you and looking at you, you need to be moving around. I'm very quickly going through these rules. With any class that has been here for a couple of weeks, you really don't need to spend too much time going over rules. It should be one person on the trampoline, you jump that direction, you land in a stick-it, and you don't go under the trampoline, and it should be boom, 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 done. If you have brand new kids in the class, or maybe they're younger kids that haven't heard the rules as many times, then maybe take a little bit longer. But it shouldn't take 60 seconds. I think it takes me 30 seconds to go through the rules on the trampoline, the circuit, and get going. So I'm demonstrating one of the exercises so the kids see what it's supposed to look like. The parents see that I'm moving around and showing them what to do. And the parents see their kids standing up, they're engaged, they're watching me, their eyes are on me, which is how it should be. As a teacher, you should be the most important thing in the room, the most interesting thing in the room to these kids. They shouldn't want to look anywhere else because you're the most interesting thing to look at. Their eyes will be drawn over to maybe the boys' team on the trampoline or the girls over on bars or stuff like that. So you need to be more interesting than that and make sure you keep their attention. So now I see it from the kids' point of view. Now, one thing I will say, I am a very loud person, I'm a very shrill person. Not everybody can speak in that way, and that's fine. But you still alter your tone. You speak not in this flat monotone that's not very interesting, that people don't want to listen to. And you make it interesting. You have energy, you have your energy up, and then you don't have to really worry about being loud or being, obnoxious, because you're just going to have the energy that the kids pay attention to anyways. So for the kids, that was like no time at all. 30 seconds, boom, done, and they're already up on the trampoline and going. Alright, now, after rules, you see, this is the incorrect way to do it. I'm standing down at the end, playing with my rotation sheet. Guys, The rotation sheets are there to help you know what event is next. At this point, you guys should know it's 15-minute rotations unless you're in a blue level class, and then I believe bars and beam are 30-minute rotations. You should know that by now. The only time you should really be looking at that sheet is to double check that, oh yeah, I'm going to the right event next. And then it should be put down and you should be interacting with the kids. So all this fiddling with the rotation sheet and folding it and doing origami and all that nonsense needs to go away. The rotations really don't change from week to week either. So if you've been with a class for a couple of weeks, you should already have a general idea of what your rotation schedule is. So it shouldn't be that important that you have it in your hands folded so you know what time it is and all that stuff. You need to be focusing on interacting with the kids and teaching gymnastics, not fiddling with a piece of paper. Another thing here is that students are taking their turns. There's a pause between when the previous student goes and the next student gets on the trampoline. As soon as the first student hits that mat, the next kid should be up and going. And you should be keeping an eye on it, so if the kid does fall down and doesn't do their stick it, you're aware of that and you give enough time for them to get up and get out of the way from the next person to go. But there shouldn't be this long pause. The trampoline really shouldn't be empty at any point. That's why we get buildups and these huge lines that happen. And lines happen. It's something everybody has to deal with. That's fine. But it should always be moving. We all know how frustrating it is to stand in a line that's not moving and not budging, and you don't know why, and you don't know why the person in front of you isn't moving, and it's awful. Kids get that. It's the same thing. So now briefly we have from the kids' point of view. You can see there's not, I mean, that was trampoline. They went down the trampoline. They didn't die, so that's good. They're doing their cartwheels, but there's no feedback. There's no corrections being given. They're not being taught anything. They're just kind of going in a circle. And around here, you do hear a correction being given. It's the only one you hear, and this child in particular was not spoken to their entire turn, by the way. Not a single word was spoken by the coach to help teach this child gymnastics. And let me tell you, the parents notice. But you hear me give a correction, but it's in a tone of voice that's irritated, like the kid should have known better than to bend their knees. Every correction given should be in a positive tone of voice, should be upbeat, encouraging. It should never be, get your legs straight. That's never a tone of voice we want to use when working with children. All right, now, you see, I just finished giving the rules. I get down, and I am immediately moving towards where the circuit is. I am giving corrections as I'm walking. We're done. The next kid is already going, and I'm already helping the next kid with their cartwheels, which is the next station that they have. It's constant. It's go, 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 go. If you're not sweating to death by the end of your shift, you're not doing it right. So you see, I'm constantly giving corrections. I'm constantly addressing the kids. And also, the trampoline is always at least in my peripheral vision, if not directly in my line of sight. I always know what's going on that trampoline because that's where kids are going to get hurt, is on that trampoline. So we have to make sure our backs are never turned. We're never not aware of what's going on there. All right, from the kids' point of view, there we go. Now there's a lot of ambient noise going on, so the microphone on the camera doesn't really pick up what the kid hears. But also keep in mind, there's so much ambient noise, you have to be the voice they hear above all of it. We've got a vacuum cleaner going, we've got preschool going, we have other classes screaming and yelling and shouting in the background. You see there, I give a direct correction, but it's in a positive tone of voice. Oh, good job, but let's fix this. Oh, you fixed it, good job. You see me working with another kid, even though I'm not directly working with that child. You know, they see you as a coach always interacting with themselves or their classmates, so they know that they're being paid attention to. We get back in line, the next person's already going, we know we're not going to be standing there too long. So now I have a challenge for you. For the entirety of the next clip, until I start talking again, your challenge is to sit still. Don't move. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Don't talk. Don't look at your phone. Don't pause the video. Don't fast forward through the video. Just sit there and watch the entire time. See if you can do it. I don't think I can. my gosh. That was just 60 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Uh, and that's a kid in the middle of class who's supposed to be learning stuff. Like, say you have an hour-long class, you're sitting for a minute, and a turn on trampoline, I actually did, I timed it. Uh, a turn on trampoline takes about 40 seconds, and this child was sitting for a minute. So that means that they are spending more time sitting waiting their turn than they are actually doing and learning gymnastics. And even during that time, it's not like they could overhear corrections to take note of to maybe fix in their next turn. And even if there were, I can guarantee you they didn't hear it. I'm sitting in the office right now and I'm getting distracted by outside noise. Can you imagine how distracting it is for a kid sitting out on that floor trying to pay attention with all this stuff going on around them? It's just not going to happen. So the sitting down time, the waiting, the turn time needs to be kept to a minimum. Now, with larger classes, that is very difficult, but that goes back to what I was talking about earlier about making sure as soon as that last kid does their stick it on that mat, the next kid is told to go, and they keep moving. If your class is too big, add another station in your circuit. You know, there are things you can do to minimize this wait time. Worst comes to worst, have them practice, have them hold a plank, have them do some sort of conditioning, have them do like a wall sit. Have them doing something, though. We need to make sure that this wait time is not that severe, because it seems like 60 seconds isn't that long, but if you're waiting 60 seconds for every single turn on every single event in a 1 hour class, it's going to add up really, really fast, and the parents are not paying for their children to be sitting for more than half of their class time.
Got it. Okay, go to the other one.
So here, I actually don't have a clip of the entire wait time when I'm teaching the class, you know, with the energy, with the kids going at a reasonable pace and stuff like that, but you can kind of get an estimate here of, so this kid just finished their turn, they're getting back in line, they see the next person's already going, and we're in line. Now, I remember, and I know, that Annabella was first, who is the one making the funny face right now, and Harper's going to go right after Kamira right here. So now we have Kamira, we have Harper, Annabella, and then it's her turn. And you can see how quickly they're getting through their turns and they're going. Because there goes Harper, and then at this point I had stopped the video, unfortunately. But you can see person's going, person's finishing, person's going. But it's a pretty fast pace. So I can guarantee you that is not 60 seconds of wait time for each kid. And going through the circuit actually takes a little bit more time because I'm stopping them, I'm having them redo their skills, I'm fixing things, I'm correcting, I'm complimenting. Our time on the equipment and doing gymnastics is going to be much more than our time sitting and waiting our turn, which is exactly how it needs to be. So the big things to focus on here. Number one, we need to make sure our rules are exciting, engaging, and quick. Number two, we need to make sure that we are not fiddling with our rotation sheets. Put it down, guys. Put it down. And that we are actively coaching the kids. Number three, we need to make sure that we are actively giving corrections in a positive tone of voice and an encouraging manner that makes them actually want to do better and do more gymnastics. Number four, minimize that wait time. Do whatever you can to make sure that the trampoline is moving quickly, that you have enough of a circuit on the side to take up enough time so that when the kid finishes their gymnastics, comes back to wait in line, they're not there for too long until it's time to get back up on the equipment. One thing I do want to talk about really quickly, we might do a more in-depth video on this later, but there's something called a compliment sandwich. And it's used actually in not just gymnastics, but whenever you're dealing with people or you're trying to get people to change their behavior and stuff like that. If you're in a management position, this is really important. A compliment sandwich basically means that whenever you have a correction to give, you start with a compliment, you give the correction, and you end with a compliment or something encouraging. So an example of a compliment sandwich would be, instead of saying, get your leg straight, it would be more like, oh, that was such a good try. Next time when you do it, can you try and get your leg straighter and squeeze that muscle really tight? Oh, good job. Yeah, high five. So it's something encouraging, it's upbeat, it's positive. The kid is excited to go try it again to see if they can make that correction. And whether they do or not, it should always be, again, something encouraging, like, oh my goodness, that was a good try. Let's try it again and see if we can get our legs even straighter. And always motivate, always encourage. Never, ever, ever should you be correcting in a negative way. Because we want these kids to stay. We want them to have fun. We want them to love what they're doing. They're not going to do that if you're in a bad mood with them. I just hit the microphone, didn't I? We want these kids to stay in the program. We want them to love what they're doing. We want them to progress and get better and be happy. And that won't happen if they think you're constantly mad at them for making mistakes. So I hope you guys learned something from these 2 videos. I do expect to see some of these changes being implemented within the next couple of weeks since these videos have been released. I don't want to see any more rotation sheets in hand. It should be a glance and put it down. I can't tell you that is my biggest pet peeve right now. Guys, put them down! So we'll be back with more videos soon, and I will see you later.
These are our wonderful level 3s that helped us with our video today. Say hi, guys!
Hi!
So, who are you?
Kamira, Harper, Trinity, Kinesia, Annabella, Aleka, Kenley.
A little delayed there, Kenley. So thank you guys so much for helping us today. And we'll be using you guys in more videos. Okay, say bye!